Lessons we can learn from Saint Jane de Chantal. My dear friends, today we look at the radiant life of Saint Jane Frances de Chantal, a woman who lived fully as daughter, wife, mother, widow, foundress, and a religious. In each role, she revealed what it means to combine grace with good sense, contemplation with action, and love with endurance. Her message is strikingly modern, speaking to hearts wearied by noise, haste, and anxiety. She teaches us how to be strong in suffering, free in spirit, humble in service, and abandoned to God's will. Let's look at 6 timeless lessons from this remarkable scene. The first, fortitude in the face of adversity. Jane was born into nobility in Dijon and enjoyed a joyful marriage to Baron Christophe de Chantal. Their union was called the most saintly marriage possible. But her happiness was shattered when her husband was accidentally shot and killed. She was only 28. Left to raise 4 children and live under the roof of a harsh father in law who kept a mistress, Jane endured humiliation, loneliness, and financial strain. Yet she responded not with bitterness, but with charity and courage, treating even the mistress of her father in law with respect and educating her children. She cared for the sick and the poor, often depriving herself of rest. Through her grief, she discovered that real strength is not the absence of sorrow, but the grace to turn sorrow into service. Her life teaches us true fortitude is love that refuses to give up. The second lesson, spiritual freedom, doing all through love. In 1604, Jane met Saint Francis de Sales, who became her spiritual director and dearest friend. Before meeting him, she had been under a rigid confessor who imposed 4 vows that bound her conscience and stifled her spirit. Francis de Sales immediately freed her, teaching his revolutionary principle do everything through love and nothing through constraint. He taught her the secret of holy freedom of mind. Freedom not from responsibility, but for loving. A free soul is neither scrupulous nor careless, but flexible, joyful, and wholly given to God's will. Jane absorbed this spirit so deeply that her personal motto became Live Jesus. To find God not in extraordinary acts, but in ordinary duties done with love. The third lesson, the beauty of practical virtue and humility. Jane's spirituality was never abstract. She insisted that love must be proven in deeds, not in feelings. Delight in prayer, she said, is no sign of love. The true sign is to bear difficulties patiently and fulfill one's duties cheerfully. She made humility the cornerstone of holiness, the honest recognition that we are nothing without God. True humility, she said, detaches us from self importance, social ambition, and pride. Her advice to her sisters was simple and practical. Avoid gossip, be gentle in speech, and love purely, not with sentimental affection, but with a spiritual love that seeks the good of the other. She reminds us that humility and charity are not weaknesses, they are the strength of saints. The fourth lesson, abandonment to God's will. If humility is the foundation of holiness, trustful surrender is its summit. Jane taught that perfection consists in resting entirely in the bosom of God's providence. We must trust God as a child trusts a loving mother, certain that everything, joy or sorrow, comes from His hand for our good. Her motto captures this total abandonment: ask for nothing, refuse nothing. To live like this is to walk in peace, accepting both consolation and loss with the same calm heart. In her final days, Jane lived this spirit, completely dying in serenity, asking for nothing and refusing nothing. She teaches us that the highest act of love is to let God be God in our lives. She teaches us that the highest act of love is to let God be God in our lives. Fifth lesson: prayer, the heart of simplicity. Jane was a master of prayer. Though she endured long seasons of dryness and desolation, she understood that prayer does not depend on techniques but on love. The great method of prayer, she said, is to have no method. Prayer begins with humility, standing before God as nothing, like a blank canvas on which the Holy Spirit paints. The essence of prayer is not many words, but a listening heart. She joined prayer to mortification, calling them the two wings of the dove. Prayer without sacrifice, she warned, is like a bird trying to fly with one wing. True prayer must bear fruit in patience, gentleness, and joy. Jane's wisdom invites us to pray simply, love deeply, and let God shape our hearts in silence. Sixth lesson: compassionate and innovative leadership. Jane's greatness shines in her founding of the Order of the Visitation of Holy Mary with Saint Francis de Sales in 1610. This order was revolutionary. It welcomed women often rejected by other communities, widows, the elderly, the sick, offering them a gentle path of holiness. By the time she died in 1641, over 80 monasteries had been founded. Her leadership was marked by motherly affection and firm gentleness. She told superiors to win hearts with kindness, frankness, and confidence. The visitation became known as a little kingdom of charity. Its spirit was both strong and tender, rooted in everyday acts of love. Jane often spoke of the martyrdom of love, not dying once for God, but living daily for Him through small sacrifices freely embraced. Some die martyrs by the sword, she said, but the daughters of the visitation die daily through love. This is the Salesian spirit at its best: gentle, humble, persevering love that transforms ordinary life into a continuous offering. To conclude, living Jesus today. Saint Jane Chantal's life speaks powerfully to our times. She shows that holiness is not confined to the cloister. It flourishes in family life, in work, in suffering, in friendship, and in leadership. Her legacy is a culture of sanctity, a spirituality that unites contemplation and compassion, courage and tenderness, humility and strength. Her motto still echoes across centuries: live Jesus. It is an invitation to love without measure, to serve without seeking reward, and to surrender without fear. May Saint Jane Chantal teach us the art of living Jesus in our daily lives through quiet fidelity, cheerful endurance, and the courage of gentle love. Live Jesus.